Hi, I want to tell you a story. I was once in Japan a long time ago, many years ago. I went with a group of engineers in order to visit some technical institutions and universities. And we've seen amazing things in Japan. Technologically, they're very advanced. One time we walked into this university and they took us to a room, and that room had a person sitting and talking. So we thought that person was real. And then it turned out to be a robot. So they actually took us to the back room, and we saw how they're controlling this robot and how they're giving it commands. Anyhow, so when I was in Japan, I heard a lot about the Muslim community in Japan. So I wanted to really see what it's like to live in Japan as a Muslim, and how the Muslim community is doing there. So my desire was to go to one of the mosques that are in Tokyo. I was in Tokyo at that time, and check it out. So I did a little bit of research, and I found the biggest mosque in Tokyo, the biggest masjid in Tokyo, which was the Tokyo Jami' Mosque. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go see it. So I departed from my group. I left my colleagues. I said, look guys, I'm gonna go do my thing right now. And I embarked on this journey trying to get to this mosque in Tokyo. And if you have been to Tokyo, just figuring out the transit system and the sky trains and the underground trains, it's a science by itself. In any case, I managed to figure it out, and it was a struggle. And I got there, and when I got there, I saw this beautiful big building. It's a mosque that has beautiful architecture, Turkish architecture as a matter of fact. It has, inside of it has these beautiful seatings that are orientally decorated. There are the fountains there inside the mosque. The gushing of the water is very soothing. They were serving tea there. The people there, once I got there, they just finished one of the 5 daily prayers that the Muslims perform. So they were sitting around, the adults were sipping on their tea, the children were walking around, and they were enjoying the beautiful atmosphere. The sun was coming in through the windows. And I'm like, wow, this is very mesmerizing. And so to me, I really wanted to start connecting with the people. And I tried to open these channels of dialogue. Unfortunately, it didn't go well. It was such a struggle because the people there, they either spoke Japanese or Turkish. And many of them didn't speak English, and the ones that spoke English, it wasn't good English, it wasn't very useful skill to them, except one person, obviously, the spiritual leader. The spiritual leader had perfect English, but he was super busy, so I connected with him a little bit, but then I had to kind of leave him and get out of the office that he is in, which is again was a very fancy office. It had these huge crystal clear glass windows that you can see through, whether you're in the office or not. So I went out, and just feeling a little bit useless and a bit distant, because I couldn't connect with the people. And someone like me, I really want to contribute to this gorgeous community that was there, but I couldn't. So I just sat down on this big table that they have set up in front of the library. They had a huge library of books. And I was just watching and pondering, this amazing community. And all of a sudden, this middle-aged Japanese lady walks in. She is pulling behind her this suitcase. It's a big suitcase with wheels, and she seems like she just arrived from her travel. And when I looked at her, she seemed like somebody of caliber, just the way she's dressed, the way she was conducting herself. She seemed somebody like who is a working professional. So she just gets close to the table that I'm sitting on. It's a big table. And then she leaves her bag there, and then she goes to the library, pulls down some books, and she sits beside me, and she starts reading these books. And she's opening these books one after the other, and they're not small books. These are, big books that she's looking at. And I kind of peek at her a little bit, like, what is she doing here? And I see, she's struggling. She's really struggling making sense of the information that is presented. Maybe she had some questions she couldn't find the answers to. So, while I'm sitting there, I'm trying to, kind of look at the imam, the spiritual leader, trying to get his attention from his office to kind of say, hey, come here, help this lady out. Like, she's struggling. And obviously, he's super busy. He didn't even see me trying to kind of, lock eyes with him. And then I was just sitting there. I'm like, why don't I, open the conversation? And I realized that, I had the sense of feeling that I'm not good enough to kind of help others. Like I'm not, I don't have the skills, I don't have the knowledge. And then when I thought about it, I think that's because of this sense of feeling that I'm not good enough. It's coming from something from my childhood, where I was struggling with bullying, despite coming from a good family, well-educated family. I was always one of the top people in my class, but there was always that bullying that was happening behind the scenes, and that kind of made me feel that I'm not good enough. But I said, okay, well, whatever. So I gathered all the courage that I had at that moment, and I turned to this lady and I say, hi. So she looks up and she responds, and my jaws drop because she speaks perfect English. Her language and her English skills are even better than mine. And then we start conversing back and forth, and I'm trying to kind of find out, well, what is she doing here? And I arrived to the conclusion. She tells me that she's traveling from the other side of Japan. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's a long distance. So we kind of look it up on the map, and that's a long distance. And I said, okay, so why are you traveling from there? She said, I have some questions about Islam. I said, okay. So what's the story? So she says that she has this very close friend of hers, and her friend is a Muslim, and she wanted to be able to connect kind of better with that friend, and she wanted to understand the culture better and the faith better. So I said, okay, but that doesn't constitute you traveling this far. So she said that I have been researching Islam for 10 years. So the demon inside me, I'm like, you must be a scholar right now. Like I have nothing to give you. I said, okay, well, there must have been a motivation for you to kind of start that journey. She said, yes. My friend said a statement, and ever since I've been trying to explain that statement, and I have been trying to make sense of it, and I've been trying to answer some questions. I said, okay, what was that statement? And she tells me that statement, and I'm shocked, not just shocked, I am disappointed as well as I'm angry, because that statement in and within itself is not an Islamic teaching. It's like somebody who comes to you and they say, one of your very close friends, and that friend tells you, the earth is flat. And then you take that statement to heart, and then you hit all the universities, all the science literature, all the publications, and you try to prove that or explain why the earth is flat. Well, you will not find an answer. You will not find an answer because that statement is invalid. Except obviously if you go to fake news, then yes, you might find some answers there, but the earth is not flat. And it doesn't matter if you spend a decade researching this topic, you're not going to prove that the earth is flat. This was a similar situation here. This friend of hers tells her this statement that is not part of the Islamic teachings, and she goes on for 10 years trying to understand that statement. And at that time, at that moment, I ask her, I kind of try to hide my anger and disappointment, and I say, can I provide you with some basics? And before I tell her that, I ask her, okay, well, over the past 10 years, what have you learned about Islam? So she goes on in this long rant, giving me one statement after the other about things she found out, absolutely incoherent. She's confused. I'm confused. I'm like, where did you get this information from? And, and after that I said, okay, just hold on a little bit. Can I, provide you with some basics that can help you structure your approach to studying Islam, to learning Islam and understanding it. I'm not going to give you everything about Islam, but I'll give you just the structure, just the basics, so that whenever you find books and you try to open them, at least you will make sense of what you're reading. She said, okay. So, the moment I open my mouth, I see that she pulled pieces of paper, she pulled a pen out, and she starts writing. So she started writing and writing and writing, and I'm helping her create those diagrams, structure the things, and I speak for about 2 hours, and she's just writing. And by the end of my talk and my conversation with her, she has like this huge set of notes, and then she looks up to me, or she looks up and she says, look, what you have taught me in those 2 hours right now is more than what I've learned in the past 10 years of extensive research. And it's at that moment it kind of hits me. It hit me that, with my engineering background, which is a very structured field, and my background in Islamic studies, well, maybe it's time to kind of help people connect, help the Muslim community and non-Muslim community connect. And I have to put that skill to use, and I have to improve it. So I set a plan, and that plan is, started 10 years ago, is even more is to use that skill and hone it down. So I started, developing many courses. I started delivering sermons. I started speaking at events. I started answering questions, and gradually that skill became better and better. But then I hit a wall, and that wall is I couldn't find a curriculum, a well-structured curriculum, a well-presented, a well-developed curriculum that is written in English, that introduces the basics of Islam and helps Muslims and non-Muslims connect, have a deeper understanding, have a deeper relationship, have deeper friendship. I couldn't find a curriculum that can help somebody who has a Muslim neighbor or a Muslim friend or a Muslim colleague be able to understand what his Muslim colleague is doing or practicing or believing. And then I turned to the religious leaders in the community, and I said, look guys, we need to develop this. This is very important. We need something that is structured, something that is concise, and something that is understandable in the Western context. And years go by and there is nothing. It's just absolutely nothing. So then it kind of hit me. I'm like, okay, look, I have to build this myself. And so I decided that, okay, it's time for me to kind of put it together. So I take two sets of actions, or two actions. The first one is that I go and I get my Bachelor of Religious Studies in the Islamic faith. And then I start building this curriculum from scratch. So since I speak both Arabic and English, I have access to unlimited references in the Islamic faith or about the Islamic faith and culture. So I go into reading thousands of pages and summarizing them and contextualizing them and understanding them. And, I start producing this curriculum, and, it kind of becomes a roadmap for me to help me, communicate and help people, engage the two communities, and the Muslim and the non-Muslim communities engage. And at that moment is where the website understandislam.ca is born. And now I'm finishing the development of the curriculum, this master class, and I'm looking forward to putting it online, just making it more accessible to everybody who would like to take it. And when all of that is done, what really matters, the things that I realized, is that the being able to connect people, connect communities, and connect members of societies, that helps in building that society. And when that happens, at least my children will grow up understood, and they wouldn't be feeling alienated. My friends who were literally pepper sprayed, because they were standing in front of a mosque by somebody who was misinformed about Islam, hopefully they're not going to experience that again. And all those people that were physically and emotionally hurt and abused because people misunderstood their faith and they didn't know how to engage with them, hopefully they will not experience that again. And life, my dear friends, is very short. And what makes it more memorable and more meaningful is being able to contribute something that can help two or more people connect.